Hi everybody, this is going to be a quick step-by-step tutorial for how to make the single crochet stitch that is using US terminology. If you're following UK terminology, then this is the same stitch as what you will know as the double crochet. So this is a quick swatch I put together with about 11 stitches and 9 rows to show you a bit how the single crochet stitch builds up. I think it makes for a really nice weave, fairly tight for crochet. I think it's the tightest basic stitch, particularly when you compare it to something like the double crochet, and it's really perfect for beginners. It's the best stitch to start with and build up your techniques from that. So with no further ado, let's get started. First thing you will do is, as always, you will make a loop. Put your hook through it, tighten it a bit so it's snug but not too tight, and then we will start making a series of chains. So obviously this will depend on how much your pattern is asking for, how many chains, or of course if you're working on your own piece, how many chains you will want to put there. For the purposes of this video, I'm just making a few here to show you. So the first thing to bear in mind is, once you have your chains, if you're looking to make a row of single crochet stitches, is you need to know where you're going to put your hook. So when it comes to our chains and this kind of building of the first row, you will always put your hook in between that chain. This is the easiest way of starting off. And again, your pattern may ask for something different. If so, you'll have to follow the directions they indicate, but 99.9% of the time you start like this. You put your hook in the middle of that chain, as so we know where in the chain we need to start putting our single crochets in, where our hook needs to go. And the second thing to bear in mind is, where do we start? So the general rule is that you always start a single crochet in the second chain or the second loop, depending on the terminology, from your hook. So this first loop here, which is actually on your hook, doesn't count. So if you look closely, there is a chain here, and that's your first chain. And sometimes this one is a bit difficult to find. It tends to be a bit smaller. It's the one, however, that your yarn here comes in and out of, you see? So it's very easy to spot once you know what to look for. And of course, the second one is going to be the one right next to it. So this one here. So that's the rule, the general rule, again, unless your pattern specifies anything different. But for the purposes of this demonstration, what we're going to do is we're going to go into the second chain from hook, and that's this little place here. So let's do that. So our hook is through the chain now, and what we're going to do is we're going to wrap our hook around the yarn. So we're going to yarn over. So once your yarn is secure here on the tip of your hook, you're going to pull it through the chain that you just went into, and that will give you 2 loops on your hook. And the last step is to go again, yarn over, wrap your hook around that yarn, and pull it through both loops this time. And that's it. You've got your first single crochet stitch on your hook ready. So let's repeat this. Again, put your hook through that middle of the chain, yarn over, pull through the chain, yarn over, and pull through both of these loops. So it's very easy. Middle of the chain, put your hook through it, yarn over, pull through that chain, yarn over again, and pull through both loops. Very, very easy. And the more you do it, the faster you will become, and the more even your stitches as well. So if you're just starting off, don't get discouraged. You need to try it a couple of times just to make sure that you keep the tension right, and then you'll see that once you get used to the movement and holding the hook, and you can find the way that sort of suits you the best. Like I hold it quite closely. Other people hold it further apart, and others even hold it a bit like a pencil. So try out different techniques, see what fits you the best, and then just complete these steps. And you'll see once you've tried it a couple times, it comes naturally and you have a very even look across all your stitches. So once you are at the end of your row and you need to continue single crocheting up the next row, then what you need to do is chain 1 and turn around. Again, that is unless your pattern specifies anything differently, but most cases this is what you'll do. And then you need to start doing your single crochet stitches again along this row on top of your previous ones. And so obviously you will have to go underneath the last stitch you crocheted, the last stitch you created, and do a single crochet stitch there. Now, if you are a complete beginner, you might be wondering, well, where is the, how can I be sure that I'm single crocheting into the right stitch? Well, the previous rule that we talked about, the idea that you would put your hook to do a single crochet in the second chain from a hook applies here as well. So again, this loop here doesn't count. This is then your first loop, your first chain essentially, and that's again the place where that yarn comes out from, you see, and therefore the second one is the one right next to it, and that will be essentially the first stitch. And indeed it is the case, you can see by flipping their piece around. But that's an easy way to double check, especially if you're a beginner and you just want to be sure that you're on the right track. And the steps are exactly the same. Rather than going through a chain, we go underneath both loops of our stitch. We yarn over, pull through that stitch, yarn over again, and pull through both loops. So it's the exact same technique. And it's a very versatile stitch. I love combining it with the bubble stitch. I find that it gives a very beautiful look, and you can create lots of shapes, like waves and triangles and squares, to really create beautiful patterns in a very easy way, literally combining 2 stitches. And there you go, you will have reached the end of your row, and again you'll single crochet into that last stitch, and then you'll chain 1 again and you'll continue. So this was a very brief tutorial about the single crochet stitch. I hope you found it useful, and happy crochet!